out the vote.
But as the former president and former first lady pointed out last night in their speeches, this campaign is a long way from the finish line with a short amount of time to get there. Joining us here in Studio 57 is Maura Gillespie. She's founder of Blue Stack Strategies. She was also the deputy chief of staff of former Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Welcome. And with us from Chicago is Adam Hodge. He's the managing director at Bully Pulpit International, a former spokesperson for the Biden-Harris administration's National Security Council. Adam, let's start with you because you're not in the room partying with us. How critical is it for Democrats to keep up? How critical is keeping up the momentum for Democrats? Because there is a ways to go until the election.
There's a ways to go, but you touched on it. There is real energy and enthusiasm in the Democratic Party. And you heard President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama tap into the hope that we can pivot to that future again. And so the task for the Democrats tonight is to keep laying out that vision for the future, how we're going to help fight for people, fight for freedoms, and fight for that future. The polls don't vote, people do. And so it's important for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to lay out specific policies that they're going to implement to help people's lives, just make lives a little bit easier, make our country a bit more secure. And that's the task for them when they get on the stage tonight.
Maura, let's talk about tonight's theme. It's fight for our freedom, and in particular, it's talking about reproductive freedoms, we understand. You worked for Representative Adam Kinzinger. He is a Republican who the Harris campaign has turned to in trying to woo some of those moderate or ethically minded Republicans who are turned off by Trump. Does focusing on reproductive rights potentially have the risk of turning off those types of Republican voters that the Harris campaign is trying to woo right now?
No, I think that there are a lot of people in the Republican Party who feel really strongly about women's rights. And, you know, again, women make up more than half the population now. And to say that they don't have medical freedom, that's a big messaging problem for Republicans. So for those, maybe Republican women aren't as outspoken on the issue, but they care deeply about it. And so speaking to them tonight in this regard and highlighting what's at stake could bring them over to seeing the validity of you know, voting for a Harris-Walz ticket, but then down ballot going and looking at what their local mayor is saying, what their local representative, what their district, you know, makeup is, and voting that way. You can have split tickets. You know, it doesn't change your status as being Republican. And I think maybe that message coming from Republicans who worked for Trump and are speaking out against him, that may speak to those moderate voters, those Nikki Haley voters, those who are, you know, fiscally conservative but socially more liberal. That's where you're going to meet them.
And more based on that then, based on the results of how things at the DNC and RNC landed with voters, might we see a shift in the Republican strategy post-conventions to try and hang on to some of the disaffected Republicans who did show up at the DNC and vocally said, we're going to vote for the other team?
I would hope that Republicans down ballot are looking at this in the House and the Senate. There's a real opportunity for them to you know, grow the majority in the House, but maybe, you know, it's looking like the Senate could be flipped. So they need to distance themselves, I think, a bit from Trump because he's not staying on message and he doesn't know what his message is. And J.D. Vance certainly isn't helping. But if they can focus on what they bring to the table as far as the economy and security and safety, they can really make headway there. And I think trying to stay away from the issues that the DNC convention is going to focus on with reproductive rights, you know, that's where they're going to be lost.
Adam, let's bring you more into this conversation because Vice President Harris and Governor Walz attended a campaign rally in Wisconsin last night. Instead of joining Democrats at the convention, was that an effective strategy, especially given the limited amount of time before the election, to have them out in those battleground states?
You could tell the enthusiasm in the crowd in Milwaukee, and I want to give a special shout out to the team that actually made that happen. It was a great way to show the people in the hall that they're not alone, that there are people just a few short miles away across the border in a very important, a critical swing state the Democrats have to win, that the party is united and we're fired up to get Kamala Harris and Tim Walz elected. And so when you have a convention right next to a swing state, take every advantage you can to drive that message with voters that we're going to need. Wisconsin is going to be close. There's no question about it. So Kamala Harris and Tim Walz taking an opportunity to go speak to the voters directly in Wisconsin is great, right with just a few short days until election day. So it's excited. we're excited to have them back here in Chicago tonight for another really thrilling night. And Tim Walz talking about his record of service, talking about his vision for the future and how he's been a champion for working families. So we're excited to have them back.
All right, Maura Gillespie, Adam Hodge, thank you both.